was love about to happen, I'm serious. And then all of a sudden she gets up and she says, hey, I really gotta leave. Damn.
Yeah, but no, see, Risk is a game just on the Earth. You can't conquer planets in the game. It's a board game. Where the hell are planets gonna go? Yeah, okay, yeah. I guess you can write the letter to them. Yeah. Alright, I gotta go. Later. Welcome to MITNG. My name is Jeffrey, and I'm your host on this journey, and we're about to get into it. Author Bill Willingham's beloved Fables is about to find its home in Hollywood. Vertigo's most beloved story of displaced fairy tale heroes may finally get the movie it deserves. Bill Willingham's Eisner Award-winning comic book Fables has been palmed by many a hand in Hollywood since the book exploded back in 2009. Originally, Fables was slated to be an ABC television show, but that plan fizzled, and ABC was left doing what they do best, ripping off ideas. So they created a similar TV show called Once Upon a Time, written by those Hollywood hacks, Kurtzman and Orky, whom despite similarities with Fables swears that their idea is completely original. The story has had success, but for those of us who know the show's origins, it fails in comparison to Bill Willingham's world, and is probably why director Nicolas Arcel has taken the helm on this project. Nicolas's credits include the Oscar-nominated A Royal Affair and the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Nicolas is working with screenwriter Jeremy Slater, who's currently writing the reboot to the Fantastic Four franchise. And lastly, David Heyman and Jeffrey Clifford of Heyday Films, the producers behind the Harry Potter franchise, are on board to produce. Sounds like a go. My only concern now is whether we as fans are in abundance enough to eclipse the hype that has been made over all the crappy spin-offs like Grimm and Once Upon a Time. I believe we can. Stay tuned to MITNG for more information on this project. We Are the City, mature on their sophomore LP. The Vancouver-based indie rock band We Are the City has released their anticipated sophomore album, Violent. Their signature sound of tight, aggressive, progressive rock is not found as much on this album, but what is found is a new, mature sound. The band is renowned for creating dance-worthy tracks in the most unlikely genre, but instead there's a bleak overcast in this album. It's a different direction that fans will have to deal with, but for the sake of the band itself, they've created their most honest and emotional album yet. The best music is made in the darkest times, and We Are the City plan to make that the case with Violent. Be sure to check out their Bandcamp, which is listed in our full review. Enter the world of Alice Walker. Almost everyone has heard of The Color Purple, but what do you know about the book's author, Alice Walker? In a new documentary, Alice Walker, Beauty and Truth, you'll get a first-hand intimate look into the writer's life, from childhood to her Pulitzer Prize to her ongoing humanitarian work, playing now at festivals worldwide. Prepare yourself for Black Rock bleakness. We here at MITNG freaking love tough, strong, independent women, especially when they hold nothing back and kick serious ass. In Black Rock, what should have been an awesome weekend getaway for three childhood friends turns deadly and ugly, and not in a good way. When a group of hunters crosses their paths, a night of well-intentioned fun and disintegrates into a race for survival. Should you see it? Black Rock wants to be known as a horror film, but the action is loose and the gore is light. Noteworthy performances by Kate Bosworth, writer-director Kate Aselton, and Lake Bell help carry an otherwise mediocre entry into the genre. Teenagers are total animals in director Marcel Flores' latest flick. Get ready for a mind-bending story of first love, identity, and talking teddy bears. No, we're not talking about last year's Ted. We're talking about a new Spanish-language film called Animals, currently making rounds on the festival circuit. Animals features a fully animatronic teddy bear as a teenage boy's best friend. We know what you're thinking. Sounds like kid stuff. But Animals has more than its fair share of murder, suicide, car accidents, and school rampages. It's a strange, unnerving film, sure to stir up controversy wherever it goes. The Creators Project talks film, art, and getting real with pop artist Takashi Murakami. During my stay in New York, I was fortunate enough to have gotten a chance to see Takashi Murakami's work at the Brooklyn Museum. I even ran into the supersized guy, Morgan Spurlock. What? Anyway, I can't begin to describe the feelings you get from looking at Takashi Murakami's stuff. His work is Japan on acid, erotic, visceral, fun. But that was kinda then, and this is now. Takashi has taken a slight departure from fountains of sperm and poop to focus on something more serious, like the effect the 2011 tsunami in Japan had on him. In this latest episode by the Creators Project, he seems to have morphed that experience into his feelings on Japan as a whole, and how that relates to his relationship with the US, or Western culture. It's a real interesting video that sheds some light on the oftentimes misunderstood phenomenon that is his work. I'd often heard from my fellow Japanese friends that in Japan, Takashi doesn't receive nearly as much press as we give him in the States, and that could be because they think his work is trite. But in my opinion, there's no denying the mastery involved in some of his more complex pieces. One could understand with that level of animosity that one could become bitter about his home, a home which he explains has essentially lost its identity. I don't necessarily agree with that assessment. I think Japan is rich beyond comprehension with history and identity. But what's happened to Takashi Murakami is what happens to most who become easily bored, aka artists. For the most part, you become fascinated by other things, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You just can't get to the point where you believe there's no level of magic to be had at home. And I think the recent disaster in Japan has brought that realization home for him. I'm getting deep, aren't I? Sorry. You can check out the video and more Takashi Murakami works on MITNG.org. And now it's time for the trailer of the week!
When you look into their eyes, you know somebody is home.
They're an animal that possesses great spiritual power, not to be meddled with.
Orange County Sheriff's Office.
We need SO to respond for a dead person at SeaWorld. A whale has eaten one of the trainers.
Tilikumbo is the one that went after her.
Dawn is the senior trainer here at Shamu Stadium.
She captured what it means to be a SeaWorld trainer, that it made me realize what happened to her really could have happened to anyone.
I've been expecting somebody to be killed by a Tilikum.
We weren't told much about it, other than it was trainer error.
It didn't just happen. It's not a singular event. You have to go back to understand this.
The speedboat herded them in, and they could just pick out the young ones.
This is the worst thing that I've ever done.
When Tilikum arrived at SeaWorld,
He was twice as large as the next animal.
We stored these whales in what we call a module, which was 20 feet across and 30 feet deep, and the lights were all turned out.
Probably led to what I think is a psychosis.
All whales in captivity are all psychologically traumatized. It's not just Tilikum.
If you were in a bathtub for 25 years, don't you think you'd get a little psychotic?
Dawn would tell you that it was her mistake.
They blamed her.
It's just a bold-faced lie.
I was just instructed to get rid of the tape.
the industry has a vested interest in spinning these. That sells a lot of Shamu dolls. It sells a lot of tickets at the gate.
There's no record of an orca doing any harm in the wild.
On a final note, be sure to join MITNG at the Phoenix Film Bar in downtown Phoenix as we celebrate the Boards of Canada's latest album, Tomorrow's Harvest. Festivities will begin on June 11th between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. It'll be at the Phoenix Film Bar. Hope to see you there.